Hey there YouTubers and subscribers, RoseRed17 here, and here is the review for Eden Zero Volume 7 Chapters 51 to 59. And let's begin where the volume left off. Here in Chapter 51, Shiki and Hamura are saving the people from a bunch of thieves, but only to be punished themselves for the cost of violence. Yeah, I mentioned in my last video that the sense of justice here is unjustified. They are sent to a mine for manual labor as sub-criminals, and Rebecca is willing to get to the bottom of this. Now, the guard from before did mention that violence is also a crime, which is technically true as it doesn't always solve the problem, but in some cases people need to be a little aggressive. Like with Hamura and Shiki, they fought off the robbers to save the people from harm, but Madame Coraline wishes to keep the peace according to the locals. And as for our two heroes, they're seen inside the mine with collars around their necks with the number 100,000. So after reading this chapter for the first time, I took a wild guess of what's gonna come next, and I think most people thought the same way. Seeing the panel with the two against the little critters, and the numbers are going down with every critter that is destroyed. I also find out that Shiki is afraid of bugs to the point where he passes out. Every hero has to have some weakness, right? And because of his weakness, Hamura is fighting alone against the bugs until a group comes out to help out, and it discovers they're also punished for an unjustified crime. Now, I don't want to get into too much details as to what will happen because there's no point. There is a higher up that works for Lady Coraline, and Shiki of course steps in, thus ending the chapter. Now in chapter 52, I thought there's going to be a fight, but no, the men from the mine warn Shiki that if one person rebels, they're all gonna pay the price. And thus both of them are forced down to their knees as Hamura is being whipped and then dragged away, and Shiki is not happy about this. Meanwhile, in this chapter, we learn a little bit about Madame Coraline, who is manipulative towards people and damaged a man's face just because he touched her without her approval. Oh goddamn, woman. And also at the end of the chapter, we see Lobelia again asking Rebecca for a favor. Chapter 53. Lobelia plans to tell Rebecca about Shiki and Hamura's location after doing a favor of dressing her as a cartoon kids character and dance on stage right in front of everybody. But Lobelia went too far and decided to humiliate Rebecca by dumping old smelly soup on her. But Rebecca seemed to take it lightly, and as promised, Lobelia would tell her the location of her friends. But of course, Lobelia is a total and runs off, but the man from before gave Rebecca a note saying that Madame Coraline is listening in on everybody, and he decided to show her the way. Meanwhile, Hamura is tied up and has discovered that she can't use her ether gear if her hands are tied up. Well, isn't that irresistible? Then Shiki comes busting in with an intense expression willing to fight as someone who doesn't play by the rules. Chapter 54. Shiki's defeated the man, untied Hamura, and willing to get the information about Valkyrie, as it turns out that the man knows her. Meanwhile, Rebecca is guided by Nino as he discussed that he was told to capture those who had involved with Eden Zero. Nino was hired to kidnap Rebecca, but after seeing her before, he decided to help her after a sudden change of heart. Thanks to his help, Rebecca has gained access to the mine and then was guided by a man that steals, which is his ether gear called Steelhand. Well, isn't that convenient? And it's useful in some ways. The man name is Paul, as he was Valkyrie's disciple and friend. He gives Rebecca a BQ that record the truth about Valkyrie's faith and why she never returned. As the truth will come very soon, I will get to it after a few more chapters ahead. In chapter 55, Shiki and Hamura were transported back into the mine, as this time they were up against a giant crystallizing creature. The creature overpowers them as it summons bugs, as to Shiki's fear of them rendered him useless, and Hamura thinking she will be able to do this alone until Rebecca shows up. Now in chapter 56, this is where the term teamwork comes into play. With Hamura's sword useless against the creature, they suggest a different tactic, as Pino scans for a weakness and discovers a soft spot on its back. To get to that spot, Hamura uses her sword to swing Rebecca in the air, but without getting enough force, Shiki comes in and gives her the boost that she needed. Rebecca finds this weakness and gives it a good blasting. Now that is what you call teamwork, and I like that the person who gets the final hit of a boss isn't the chosen one hero of the series. Usually someone like Shiki takes the final blow, but this time it was Hamura. I like the switch up of who would take the last hit when it comes to fighting something or someone powerful. It may be a minor boss fight, but it's still enjoyable to watch as the characters are using different ways to fight a villain with each of their strengths and weaknesses. Now, people on Twitter do complain about Eden Zero being a ripoff of Fairy Tail, but I want to discuss that topic later at the end of the video. After defeating the creature, the numbers and the colors go down to 0, but it resets itself as Paul explained that there's no getting out of it until he uses ether gear to steal them off their necks. He said he could have escaped if he wanted to, but instead he waited to give Hamura the B cure that holds the truth about Valkyrie. But the truth leads to both a shocking discovery and a heartbreaking moment. And if you read these chapters, then you know what I mean. And chapter 57 is called My Mother's Machine, which I would like to call a memory chapter. As Valkyrie and Hamura spend time together, Valkyrie suggests that Hamura needs a mother, and so she seeks out Hamura's birth mother and is discovered to be Madame Coronai. Now the shocking discovery is revealed. Now is the time for that heartbreaking moment in chapter 58 called A Silent Reunion, where Valkyrie finds Hamura's mother and willing to take her place so she can go see her daughter, but only to be backstabbed and betrayed, led into a fight that ended her life, with Hamura finding her teacher's corpse displayed. This brought tears not only to the characters but also us as the viewers. Even while I'm writing this script at this moment, I was still crying. This, which leads to the last chapter of the volume, chapter 59, I Know You Can Move On, where the emotion comes out. You can feel this pain, Hamura suffering the loss of her teacher. Hino explains that if androids' cords stop, it's no different than a death of a human. Hiro really knows how to put the emotion on this one. I have seen other emotional scenes from this creator, but this one really hit me hard. I felt the tears coming out. I felt the pain of Hamura's sorrow, and everyone else wanted to take a moment of silence for a loss of a friend. Hamura never left her teacher's side, and then she comes out giving her a heart-to-heart conversation that she can move on with the help from her friends, as Shiki did when he lost his grandfather. Shiki believes that Hamura can move on because he experienced the same tragedy as she's going through right now. It's hard to move on after losing a loved one. It's happened to all of us. But now that Shiki has given his heart-to-heart conversation with Hamura, he is willing to take down Coronai. A battle will be shown in the next volume. Now that is the end of the video, I want to discuss one topic that people post on Twitter, that Eden Zero is a ripoff of Fairy Tail. I can never understand why until I reread Eden Zero manga and the Fairy Tail anime. And I can see some similarities between the two, but that doesn't mean it's a ripoff. There are complaints that the art style of the characters looks so similar that they're identical, which makes them forget that both series are designed by the same manga artist. The characters between Eden Zero and Fairy Tail are different. They have different looks, personality, strength, weaknesses, and goals. Eden Zero is a series on its own. Sure, Hiromashima might have slipped some Easter eggs from Fairy Tail here and there, but that doesn't mean anything. I never saw Eden Zero as a ripoff. I see it as an interesting story with a goal in mind and find characters willing to achieve that goal. And the major difference between Eden Zero and Fairy Tail is the power friendship terms, where one has been used a lot in a series and the other is lacking it. Eden Zero is the one lacking that term, because I see more of teamwork to stop their foes instead of getting random power-ups just from the thoughts and emotions. True, I have seen in Eden Zero, but not as flashed out and revealing as in Fairy Tail. I suggest you read the manga of Eden Zero first, watch the entire series of Fairy Tail, and then comment your thoughts on the series on the Twitter post. Well, that's all I had to say. Thank you for watching, and those of you who are against the thought of Eden Zero being a ripoff, you have my support and I thank you for that. See you next time. RoseRed17 out.